What is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and today we are playing Need for Speed. That's right, we are officially playing the new Need for Speed, and I am so excited to be able to show it to you guys. It's just absolutely incredible. I'm like, the whole hype over this game for me has been so huge, and just for me being a longtime fan of the Need for Speed series, and to finally be able to share this game with you guys is just like, wow, like, just one of those things. And I'm like, and yes, I know I'm like getting crazy excited right now, but all of those feelings and all of those feelings that I'm relaying to you guys right now are completely 100% true, because I've been such a big fan of Need for Speed for so long that to be able to play the newest one here on the channel for you guys is just, yeah, it's pretty awesome. But enough about that and enough about me. Let's get on to the game. So when you first jump into the game, you'll kind of get an idea of, when you first jump into the game, you get the idea that this city is alive, and you get the idea that this city is, that there's always something going on. There's never a shortage of stuff to do around here. That's one of the biggest things that I love about it, actually. There's never a shortage of things to do. There's never a shortage of action, and just, again, like I said, stuff going on everywhere. And I know it's kind of an interesting, like, it's kind of an odd side note, but the lighting is on point. The lighting and the reflections are on point and top notch. Like, seriously, top notch on those. But the feeling of the game is actually, it's really interesting, because, and we'll get into the that was a fail, but we'll get into the handling, customization, and stuff like that later. But the overall feeling of the game and the feeling of the cars is really cool, because cars obviously feel different than others, and the physics model has definitely been evolved. You can really feel the development and the evolution that has gone into this physics model, and it really lends itself well to people that like to drive with different styles. So somebody that really likes one end of the driving style spectrum, let's say, is going to really be able to customize that style to their preference, whereas somebody all the way at the other end, say grip versus drift, is going to be able to play the game the way they want to as well. And I think that when you jump into it, you're going to feel a hint of the old Need for Speed games here and there, but you're also going to feel a new kind of dynamic and a new characteristic when you jump into the game, and the handling setting is right there in the middle. Now, no matter what car you start off with, there's definitely a feeling of the first cars being, I don't know, it's funny, because you get these first cars and they're, sure, they're starter cars, but they're desirable starter cars. And that's an interesting thing, because some games, they start you out and you're like, what is this? Why am I driving this? This is not even, like, this shouldn't even be racing. Whereas here, you start out with stuff that even when you get on way later into the game, I found myself going back and being like, I kind of want to drive that BRZ again, or I kind of want to drive that, that Golf again, or whatever it may be, whatever it happens to be. You'll find yourself, or you may find yourself going back and wanting to use the cars that you actually used before, and it kind of adds an interesting element of replayability to the game, because you're never like, okay, so I've got, like, I've got whatever, I won't give away what cars are coming later, but I've got something really incredibly extremely fast, and the actual main feeling is, wow, I've got all these cars, and the early ones are really fun to drive, and the later ones are really fun to drive, so I could still go back and play around with whatever car I want to, because they're all enjoyable to drive. The cars all have their own unique feeling, and they all have a enjoyable feeling, and there's really no downside depending on what kind of cars you use. Now, sure, there are going to be certain missions and races that require a specific type of car, yes, but I mean, when you're just, like, out driving around having fun, there's really no limit to what cars can be fun. Now, in this race that I was running, this circuit race, you have to, like, when you first start doing races, you have to really be on your game for corners that come up pretty quick, because when you get close to these corners, it's almost like a reflex thing, because you're like, when's that corner, now, and you have to be right there, and you almost, like, you have to train yourself to be ready for it. And you kind of your mind actually starts to prepare you for corners like in advance. So you start preparing yourself, you start preparing the car, and once you start to get ready for these corners a little bit in advance, that's when you start to get into a rhythm. And then when you start to get into a rhythm, yeah, no, people better watch it, because you're coming through. So once you get into that rhythm and you get it down, then you're kind of an unstoppable force at that point. Now, sure, are some events harder than others? Yes. Are the events in the beginning of the game a little bit on the easier side? I wouldn't say easy, but easier side. Yeah, they are. But later on, when you start to chain these corners together, yeah, it starts to get, I wouldn't say, like, intense isn't quite the right word. I mean, it is in some senses, but in other senses, the big thing that you're going to feel is not just the intensity, but the overall, not just the speed itself, but the sheer sense of speed. And yes, I get that it's Need for Speed. I mean, you know, but the sense of speed is really well there. I mean, you'll be able to see it in this sprint race. Even in the beginning of the game, when you're using some of the slower cars, you still have that sense of speed, and it really helps to keep you on point and keep your driving on point, and because you're just ready to make that ever so slight adjustment to make sure that you either make that exit or make that corner or nail that drift or whatever it is that you're trying to get to or trying to accomplish. The game really does a good job of keeping you on your toes and keeping that feeling of high intensity, really. And that's something that you need in a game like this. That's something that you need. That energy needs to be up. And energy, man, it's there. Wow, is it there? It's so there. The energy found in Need for Speed is just constant. Like, you'd come off of playing the game, and it's weird because it's almost like you're like, holy crap, I either want to play the game some more or like run around and do backflips, because it's like, I don't know, it's a weird analogy, but you're like, I've got this energy now. And maybe it's because of the fact that the game is constantly pushing you with that energy, and you feel that energy through the game. But either way, you have just that sense of, I got to keep getting faster. I got to keep getting faster. Everybody's like, I know I might be winning, but they're right behind me. And it's just that constant drive, and it really does push you. It's like this motivation. And once you get that motivation, you're just going and going and going and going and going and going. And really, you have to kind of harvest that motivation and turn it into speed. Yes. I don't know, some Clarkson coming out right there. But I stuck with the BRZ for a little while, and then later on I started to upgrade and start to switch cars. You guys will see at a certain point what I switched to. You won't see it just yet. You won't see it in this video, but because I'm kind of keeping that just a little bit on the I don't know, we'll keep that on the lowdown side until that video actually comes out, because the car that I upgrade to after this car is, let's just say this. It was an upgrade, and I know that's not saying much, but, well, I guess I can give you guys a little bit more than that. All I will say is that it was all-wheel drive, but that's the only thing I'm saying about that, because it's pretty freaking sweet. And, I don't know, the other thing, though, the other thing that you start to get into is, because everything builds on itself, and the rep and the progression in each side of the career all builds together and builds on itself, you almost feel like, to me anyway, you find yourself wanting to chip away at different career paths within the game instead of focusing on one path. And I think that's kind of a big deal, especially for me, because when you want to be able to change it up, you have that ability to go and change it up, like right there, literally go from events for one career path, and then shift gears completely, and you're over on one career path just immediately, just like that. And it's a really cool thing, because that way you're never like, okay, I gotta go back and do the same career. And it's like, once you start to experience these multiple careers, you're always switching things up, and you're always, again, the energy and the fact that it's always keeping you on your toes is always there. So you don't really have time to look back. Almost, you never have time to look back. You're always pushing forward. You're always trying to advance. And I know I keep kind of reiterating that point of you're always trying to push forward, always trying to advance. But it makes a big difference in this game. It really makes a big deal, because when you start to get into some of the faster cars, whoo, yeah, it's quite the rush, let me tell you guys. It's quite the rush sometimes. So, and then you start getting into these, like, the one-on-one sprint races, and the one-on-ones are pretty cool, because the one-on-ones add a much bigger sense of tension to it. Now, our next portion was my very first drift event. Now, when I first started getting into these drift events, it's funny because the first time I did it, I mean, sure, you're gonna need some practice the first time you do it. And it's like, you have to get used to the way the car feels, you have to get used to the way the car is balanced. But just to show you guys that that there is much better driving as far as drifting goes coming, when you get experienced with it, it looks like this. When you get experienced with it, that's, you know, you're going up the mountainside and you're tearing these streets up. This is what it starts to look like. And so I kind of wanted to show you guys that little bit of the beginning, and then show you guys this, and then go back to showing you guys the beginning again, just so you guys kind of knew that with progress and practice, it does turn out to look pretty freaking epic when you start going totally sideways up these mountainsides. It really does lend itself to a really aggressive and exhilarating kind of drifting style. So now that we've seen what you can progress into, I'll show you a little bit more of my starting out progress. And I think it took me, you know, just a few tries of the event to kind of get my rhythm down, get an idea for the feel of the car. But once you start to get that, and you realize that you don't have to slow down as much as you think, that's when it starts to get a lot better, and it starts to kind of make it a lot smoother for you as a driver, because when you realize you don't have to slow down as much, and it's a lot more based on momentum than you think, it's a lot more based on momentum than it is like power oversteer. So when you realize that point, you're pretty much good to go, and you'll be able to pull some really smooth drifts around these corners, and especially up in the mountains. Up in the mountains, it is so fun. Up in the mountains, it's like you're just stringing corners back to back to back to back to back to back. And I'm not saying that the mountains are the only area that you can have fun with as far as drifting goes, because you can have fun drifting pretty much anywhere. I mean, like, there are other areas like the docks that are equally as fun, but the mountains really do lend themselves well to that style of driving. I mean, obviously they should, and they would, because that's where drifting kind of came from. But even though I know there are a bunch of other areas in the game where you can drift, I'll always go back to the mountains. I'll always go back to the mountains, just because they are so fun, and some of the rhythms that you can get going up on the, like, these mountainsides and these mountain roads, as far as drifting goes, are really worth the drive up there for sure. And the next drift event I did was a drift contest down here at the docks. Now, in this area, you're getting a lot more kind of like a 90-degree angle as far as corners go. And if you're really like starting out in the beginning, this is actually an easier way to practice and an easier way to kind of learn the ropes. Although I started out by practicing in the mountains, but because I started out practicing in the mountains, it actually kind of prepared me to be able to do really well when I got to these events, because the corners are much more open and you have much more area to play with as far as the track goes. So when you're out in an area like this, you're just like, yeah, I'm just going sideways, not really a problem, and you're just kind of like sliding the car, and it's just yes, it's easier as far as location wise, but it's still fun because you got a lot more area to play with, like I said, on the track. So if you guys enjoyed this first episode of Need for Speed, I really hope you guys did, because I know I enjoyed making it. Oh my god, it just, the feeling is the feeling of playing this game and being able to show it to you guys is, again, pretty freaking cool. And I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave me a like. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought of it. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe for more. I will be doing a ton more of these videos in playthrough style. I'll be doing car builds. I've got tips and tricks coming very soon, which is little short, like, snippets of videos to really kind of help give you guys a little bit of a leg up in the game. And I'm very excited to get online with this game and really kind of see what there is and what's out there and what we can progress into. So again, I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you guys later.